All right. So, if you know me or any of the content that I've made, my name is Evan Strong, and I normally do videos geared around the lacing of our shoes and the tying of our shoes and the things within all the clothing that we wear that pull our bodies out of their natural functioning positions. And I show little tweaks and modifications that we can do to just allow our body to function the way it would without clothing being placed on it. So my prerequisites for everything just to allow the body to function in general are my shoelacing technique, which is in my content. It's placed many places where you can find my content, and that includes tying the shoes over toward the inside evenly on both sides to allow for even internal rotation. Okay, and then within the tongues of your shoes up through every item of clothing that you ever wear, remove the tags. Remove the tags from your clothing. So those things are prerequisites just to allow your body to just have the option to function naturally. I show other little modifications within content I've already placed within the clothing that we have already that you can do to just allow it to work better for you. And then I will be designing clothing, minimal clothing, 100% materials, just to allow our bodies to work. Having the shoulder seams sit behind the shoulders where they should, and at the edges of the shoulders where they should, pants above the hips, those kind of things. We are all universally designed in the image of our God, who is Jesus Christ, within our very, 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 very slight differences. So when I talk about things, that's how I can speak for people all over the globe when I'm just here, wherever I am, making my videos. All right. This one is going to be a little bit different. I actually just made a Webster tutorial over there, one-footed front flip. You can find that within where my content is placed. I haven't eaten or drank this morning. I have not worked out, warmed up, stretched. I make bold claims about how we should not have to stretch unless something has happened. And I say that we should not exercise just for the sake of exercising, as far as like going on a run. I make bold claims like that, but then I go into very great depth on how they are true. And I show that the body and its function is about the positioning that it's in. We have a natural position, and it's about the positioning, not about working up through exercises to something. Okay, so the reason I mentioned, other than it's related to what I'm going to do here, which is a gainer tutorial, a one-footed swing backflip. The reason I mentioned the Webster tutorial is because I haven't eaten, like I said, or drank. I woke up 20 to 40 minutes before I filmed that tutorial. I have done very little flips in months. I did 3 gainers about a week and a half ago. Besides that, it had been many months since I had even done one. I haven't done one since those 3 either. So the reason I'm saying all that is to show, again, once your body is in its natural position, in internal rotation, which is very common in 2024. Today's the 7th of September, 2024. Very uncommon for people to have their natural internal rotation. Most people are nowadays, 2024, stuck in a chronic state of external rotation, which is really only half of your body's rotation. External, internal. And internal, like how I stand all the time when I'm talking, is toward your centered line. And it's how we have life. It's how we're active. It's where our core is. Your core stabilizes every part of your body because that's the center. So that's what my shoelacing technique is about. Tying them over to the inside is so essential. The lacing just allows the shoe to fit like a glove. Everything that I do within clothing, and the reason I'm designing clothing, which is very important to say, is just to allow the body to have its natural functions, which most modern clothing does not do. I'm going to say this before we get into the flip, just while we're on the topic. If you ever purchase my clothing, please purchase it in your size. Do not purchase my clothing to fit oversized fashionably. The only reason I'm designing it is to allow the body to function natural. So Shoulder seams behind the shoulders to allow them to lift. Shoulder seams at the shoulders to allow them to lift this way. Pants above the hips, things that I mentioned. So I'm designing the fabric cuts, not imagery on clothing, okay? So look out for that when it comes, but purchase it in a size that fits you, regardless of who you are. Just have it fit you, okay? All right, so a gainer, a one-footed swing backflip. The reason flips like this are great, rather than, I'm not saying there's something wrong with doing like a two-footed backflip, right? I'm not doing one here, but like the reason a one-footed is so much better for the body is because it's a position that allows you to stay open and internal. I always talk about the pelvis's position needs to be in a posteriorly rotated position to allow for internal rotation of the legs and the feet, where you're naturally on the outsides of your feet on your arches, and you're using the posterior chain, your hamstrings and your glutes. I put my hands in different places than I was mentioning, but your hamstrings and your glutes. That's where all the strength within your body is, and that's how your core gets activated, because that puts you into internal rotation toward your center. So, yes, this isn't something that you would probably ever do without just doing it for the intent of doing a gainer, but the positioning through the entire movement, as you can see, that's what the movement is, and I'll get into it. But see how I stand? My body, again, I use myself as an example in these videos so that way I can speak out of experience, and that way I can say things that are actually true because you're seeing them happen. So the way that I stand currently, 7th of September 2024, is natural. It's open, it's internal, it's the way that the body just works. We are all universally designed in the image of our God, who is Jesus Christ. And we have very, 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 very slight, subtle differences in certain cases, whether it's a deformity, whether it's an injury that happened, a surgery that took place, you're missing a limb, missing part of whatever on your body. Within the structural, mechanical, skeletal system of our bodies, we are designed universally. So there's only one way the body works. And I go into that in my content. That's how I'm allowed to speak for people all over. That's why I'm designing clothing when that comes. So being in this open internal rotation position, from this position, if I were to go into a gainer, notice how my body positioning doesn't really change. If I were to go into like the step up of doing a gainer, like I'm still just as open. My hips are posteriorly tucked, internally rotated. My scapulas, through internal rotation, are allowed to wrap up and out of the way of my rib cage to allow it to expand in 360 degrees, to breathe through the motion and just through the entirety of our lives as humans. That's a natural open position, right? So what I love about gainers and Websters is that they allow your body to do that. It's not a punch kind of a flip where there's an abrupt impact on the takeoff. It's just a fluid lift, just like a Webster is just a fluid lift. So when it comes to doing a gainer, as I was mentioning within my Webster tutorial, we don't want to be very conscious of what's going on. As I always talk about, I never use the word posture, because I say we should not have to stretch unless something happens, right? And a lot of times people are trying to stretch into good posture. Well, within this similar thing, if you're trying to be conscious about having good posture, you're not going to allow your body to just work how it wants to. You're trying to tell it how to work, and it's just going to do that on its own. if it's allowed to, right? So within a gainer or any kind of body movement like this, flip especially, right? Because like I said, it's not something you'd really normally do, even though it's a pretty natural position. It's not really good to try to be conscious of what to do. It's just the entire body will work as a whole to just do the motion within its position. So when it comes to this tutorial, I'm not going to give much like gainer advice. Really, the point is we're going to do a one-footed swing backflip while allowing our bodies to be in their natural position. That's it. And there's not really even much to talk about within the flip, just keeping the body in its position. Internally rotated, open, and just fluid. You just want it all to be fluid. So I'm gonna tie my shoes a little bit tighter, and then I'll do a couple gainers, okay? Yeah, we're just gonna do it. So, yeah. Again, those prerequisites are a must within the clothing. My shoelacing technique, tags out of the shoes and all of the clothing. Ideally 100% natural materials. Shoulder seams behind the shoulders for the ones that are on top of them. And at the edges of the shoulders, ideally not very much wider, if at all, to allow your shoulders to sit in a good position, which allows you to breathe and allows you to just have a neutral positioning through your entire body. Oh yeah, there we go. So as I mentioned within my Webster tutorial I just barely did, these shoes actually have paracord being used as the laces, which just has no give, and I like that. That's why I always talk about 100% natural materials if we can within clothing. We don't want stretch and we don't want give because it's unpredictable for the body sensory wise, but having just about no give within my laces, the canvas type upper of my high tops restricts my plantar flexion just slightly in these specific shoes. So when I'm going to lift off, that left foot's the one I go off of, it requires quite a bit of plantar flexion, pointing of the toe, and there's a tiny bit of restriction because of my shoes. So I'm going to just do a gainer and show a visual, and then we'll talk about it a little bit from there. So as you come in, you just, again, there's not much to say because you don't want to be very conscious. You just want the motion to happen the way that your body's going to be able to stay natural through it. So the reason I go on a little bit of an angle is just to keep the hips open. Because if I come in a little bit angled, see how my legs are able to then stay internal, and you can watch like my toes are pointing inward, right? If I were to try to do it straight, you're almost gonna throw yourself into external rotation rather than like tucking in, right? All right, so I'm gonna do one. Yeah. Make sure your shoes are pretty tight. Not so tight to where there's like restriction within your foot motion and ankle motion, if you can avoid that, but you don't want play in there because then you're slipping around within your shoe. All right, which I'm trying to feel out right now because I personally, for my own flip right here, I want my shoes to feel kind of how they should for it. All right, so I'm gonna do one, and again, it's just about staying open and internal through the whole thing in a wide open swing. I don't know how many I'm going to do just because it's a backflip and I'm not like in practice with it. Again, it's mostly the positioning of the body rather than like the tweaks within the actual flip, because all you're doing is taking that position and going over your head with it. You're just swinging through. Arms and the leg travel at the same time. Thumbs go in, feet point in, stay internal, and just swing all the way through it. And then that's about it. It's a very, very easy, because it's a natural motion. Yeah, all right. feel like this shoe needs to be a little bit looser. Okay. So yeah, I might only do one. I don't know for sure, but here we go. So again, you'll come in on a little bit of an angle. You'll just take a step or two and you'll just really swing, right? Keeping your chest up, open, internal, and you just kind of look where you're going, and arms and legs and your whole body travels at the same time while keeping, if you can, a posterior rotate within the pelvis, okay? All right, here we go. So I'm going to go like right here. All right, I might only do one, but I've given enough explanation to where if you need to watch the flip a few times, you can. But again, it's mostly about the positioning, and there's not really much intellectual to do within that position. All right, so you'll come in, you'll turn, you'll swing, and you'll just swing on through. Okay, here we go. Woo! Okay, that's a very soft landing, other than I hit my shoulder pretty good. The reason I mentioned that it was a soft landing is because it looked like I was kind of all over the place. It was actually a very soft landing. I just kind of went on an angle. That's why I said I might not be doing that many, because I'm not very much in practice over this flip, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it's more about the positioning of the body through the flip. So yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna do. I think I'm going to just do one of them. It's a weird kind of flip, because similar to my Webster tutorial earlier, is it's not about how well I do the flip. I think what makes the tutorial good is the relatability, because a lot of times doing things like this are more a mental block than anything else. It's like, I'm gonna go over my head backward. Wow. And you almost don't want to try, but then once you do it, it's so much easier. So like right now, what I'm thinking about is my shoes. My shoes within these paracord laces feel a little bit like ee. But doing that, it was very easy. So I probably will do more. And that's what's cool about, again, this tutorial, is it's very raw, because it's almost as if I'm doing it for the first time. I've done quite a few gainers, but having that mental block and realizing that's, again, what I'm saying, it's not about thinking about what to do. It's just keep your body open meaning internal, and it'll just go around. It really will. Swing through, just stay open, and jump off that left foot, like at the same time as the swing. As I mentioned, let the body work as a whole, and it'll just do the thing. So I will do some more. Maybe some more too, not just one more. We'll see, but yeah, it's more of an intellectual, like, is it going to be okay kind of thing, when it will be, right? A lot of stuff is just in our, we get scared of it in our intellect, right? We think about stuff more than we just do it and feel that it's not actually hard. So I'll do a few more. Part of it too, it is a little bit of a hill right here. That's why I went up there kind of farther when I did it. So anyway, yeah, I'll do a couple more here. The paracord is just different than a regular lace. It's also polyester, And I do talk about how we really shouldn't be using polyester, but I've also talked about how I like paracord for its versatility. But yeah, it's a little bit angled of a hill right here. All right, so I'm gonna do a couple more so you can see. The angle of the hill is really a big thing, actually, man. I'm gonna go right here. Oh, goodness. I think what's so cool about a gainer is it's actually, this is truth out of at least my own experience, it's actually the easiest flip to do. Because I almost fell like open down like this way in that one, but there was no pain. And it's a very, this has to be heard correct, but it's a very safe flip. It really is. Which is strange because you're going over your head. But it is, it's a very safe flip to do. Because when you're recovering, you're gonna be able to catch yourself in front of you in internal rotation. It's actually a very safe recovery-wise flip, strangely. So I don't know how much of it is what within my shoes that I could either tweak, or if it's just the paracord, you know, causing it to feel a little bit weird. Slippery paracord within metal eyelets, you know, I mean, also the hill, man, I just, it's like I can't quite find the right approach because I'm on a hill. So yeah. I don't know. Let's see. Because it's like it's not a problem to do the flip at all, but it's like I can't figure out the approach in this. There's also like so much shadowing, right? So like the ground is different. But that might be a lot of it too, because then when you go upside down, you get the light coming through the trees in different ways. All right, I'm gonna go again. I'm not gonna go again. Dude, it's funny because this is like how the Webster tutorial turned out. It's like a very just raw tutorial, kind of like the flips aren't the greatest, but it's more about the explanation of the positioning. It's weird. It's a weird feeling because I think a big part of it is I don't wear polyester. I wear 100% cotton. And so that's why I talk about polyester and man-made materials being something we shouldn't have on our bodies, other than it being actually oil that can seep into our skin. It's a slippery, unpredictable thing. That's how these paracord laces are. So I guess I'll wrap this tutorial up. It's weird. I'm not like disappointed within this as if like I should have done a better flip, but it's like, I don't know. I think it's really a learning thing again for me, and I mean it's still great to post, because just for other people to see is what I mean, because the slipperiness of that polyester, it just reacts differently. I had like thicker cottony laces, round ones in these until last night. And it's funny that I put these in before I came into these two flip tutorials today, right? So a lot of what we do is just learning, and that can be not even necessarily learning more about the flip, but learning about, that's why I focus on clothing the way that I do, the prerequisites to allow the motion of the flip to just be able to happen, right? So yeah. Anyway, I mean, I think that kind of reinforces it more, the reason I'm going to design clothing. So stick around for clothing designed by Evan Strong when it comes. I've got a lot of stuff within where my content's placed about the human body itself, the functionality of it, the natural positionings of it that it should be in. And I also have a lot of content about clothing, what you already have, little modifications you can do within it. And then when it comes time to purchase my clothing, if you'd like to, please just make sure you purchase it in your size. Okay, thank you. It's the 7th of September, 2024. This is not at all how I envisioned this tutorial going either. Said the same thing with the Webster, but it's how it was supposed to go. I think it's good to see me kind of fall out of that second flip, to see that, because like I'm saying, even just that, it's to show a positioning. The recovery out of that is very natural if you're already in an open position. So yeah, a little bit unconventional of a video in general, but cool. Thank you.